Captain Chen stood on the observation deck of the UES Thunderchild, hands clasped behind his back as he studied the holographic display of the approaching vessels. 23 years of military service had prepared him for many scenarios, but first contact was something else entirely. "Dr. Rice, what's your assessment?" he asked, turning to the astrophysicist who had been temporarily assigned to his command. Elena Reyes manipulated the display, zooming in on the energy signatures. Their propulsion system appears to bend space-time rather than push against it. If I'm reading these patterns correctly, they're traveling at speeds we've only theorized about. Chen nodded, his expression revealing nothing of the concern building inside him. And their trajectory. Direct approach to Earth. No attempt at stealth or evasion. Rise looked up from her data. They want us to see them coming. The ship's communications officer, Lieutenant Park, approached with a tablet. "Sir, Admiral Patel has ordered all civilian vessels to clear the outer system transit lanes. The Security Council is in emergency session." Chen took the tablet, reviewing the fleet deployment orders. 6 heavy cruisers, 12 destroyers, and the Thunderchild positioned in a defensive formation around Earth. It wasn't much against an unknown adversary, but it was all humanity had. "Have engineering bring the new shield harmonics online," Chen ordered. "And tell Commander Okoye I want those railgun capacitors charged to maximum." "The railguns, sir. Those are hardly our most advanced weapons," Park said. Chen smiled slightly. "Sometimes the oldest solutions are the most reliable, Lieutenant." In the ship's engineering section, Commander Hiroshi Tanaka supervised the power allocation protocols. The experimental quantum core hummed with energy, its blue glow casting strange shadows across the compartment. "Divert auxiliary power to the sensor array," Tanaka ordered. "If these visitors have any weaknesses, I want to find them before they find ours." A junior technician approached with concern etched on her face. "Commander, the core is running at 110% capacity. The containment field is showing fluctuations." Tanaka studied the readouts. "The captain needs every advantage we can give him. Reinforce the containment algorithms and keep monitoring. This ship was built to push boundaries." Back on the bridge, Chen received reports from across the vessel as the crew prepared for whatever might come. The Thunderchild was the newest vessel in Earth's fleet, incorporating technologies that had seemed like science fiction just a decade earlier. Yet against the approaching aliens, even their most advanced systems might prove primitive. "Message from Earth Command, Captain," Lieutenant Park announced. "The diplomatic corps has prepared first contact protocols. We're instructed to maintain defensive posture, but avoid any actions that could be interpreted as aggressive." Chen acknowledged the order but continued battle preparations. 23 years of military service had taught him another valuable lesson. Hope for peace, but prepare for war. Dr. Rice approached with fresh data. "Captain, I've detected unusual radiation patterns from the lead vessel. They're scanning us. Comprehensive, detailed scans that are mapping every centimeter of our ship." "Are they preparing to attack?" Chen asked. "I don't think so. This feels more like curiosity. They're studying us." Chen considered this. "Then let's give them something interesting to study. Lieutenant Park, power up our main systems sequentially. Let them see our capabilities one by one." "Psychological warfare, Captain?" Rise asked with a raised eyebrow. "Psychological dialogue, Doctor," Chen corrected. "We're having our first conversation with them, without words." As the Thunderchild systems activated in careful sequence, the alien vessels adjusted their formation. They were responding. The silent conversation had begun. The first contact with an alien species was unfolding in the darkness of space, and humanity's future hung in the balance. The holographic image of Grand Overseer Xor Thol dominated the command center of the UES Thunderchild. Standing nearly 8 feet tall with iridescent skin that shifted between deep blues and purples, the alien's presence was imposing even as a projection. "The terms of protected status are non-negotiable. Shoreful stated, multifaceted eyes scanning the humans before him. Your species will benefit from our guidance and technological sharing, at an appropriate pace, of course. Admiral Patel maintained her diplomatic composure. We appreciate the Conclave's interest in Earth, Overseer. However, we have thrived as an independent civilization. We seek friendship rather than protection. Swordful's skin rippled with what Captain Chen recognized as amusement. Independence is an illusion in a galaxy of ancient powers. Your species has barely left its cradle. Chen studied the alien's mannerisms, noting how the crystalline emblem on Swordful's chest pulsed in rhythm with their speech. Every detail could matter if negotiations failed. We request 48 hours to consult with all Earth governments, Admiral Patel said. Granted, Swordful replied with a dismissive gesture. Though I fail to see what discussion is necessary. Your scanning technology must surely reveal the disparity between our capabilities. As the transmission ended, the command center erupted into activity. Admiral Patel turned to Captain Chen. What's your assessment? They're overconfident, Chen replied. And they're broadcasting on frequencies our systems can detect and potentially exploit. Lieutenant Park approached with a data tablet. Captain, we've completed initial analysis of their communications. Their encryption is complex but follows mathematical patterns we can isolate. Good work. Keep at it, Chen said. I want to know what they're saying to each other, not just to us. In a secured compartment, 2 decks below, Major Aisha Okoy led a team analyzing the alien vessel's defensive capabilities. Holographic models of the Kazaran ships rotated in the air as sensors continuously fed new data. Their shield harmonics are fascinating, Okoy observed. They're designed to disperse energy weapons across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. A weapons specialist looked up from his station. What about kinetic impacts? Okoy manipulated the display, running simulations. Minimal protection. They're so focused on energy dissipation that physical projectiles might penetrate with surprisingly little resistance. They've evolved beyond the concept of throwing rocks, another analyst suggested. While we've perfected it, Okoy replied with a grim smile. Prepare a briefing for the captain. Include the targeting solutions for our railgun batteries. Meanwhile, Admiral Patel convened with Earth's Security Council via secure transmission. The representatives of major world powers looked grave as they processed the situation. Can we fight them if necessary? Asked the American representative. Patel chose her words carefully. The technological gap is significant, but Captain Chen's team has identified potential vulnerabilities. The Kazaran rely heavily on energy-based defensive systems that might be susceptible to more conventional approaches. You mean we might hurt them with bullets when their shields stop lasers? The Chinese representative raised an eyebrow. Something like that, Patel nodded. But I recommend we continue diplomatic efforts while preparing contingencies. Back on the Thunderchild, Chen received a priority message from engineering. Commander Tanaka had discovered something crucial about the alien vessels. Their energy signatures never diminish, Captain, Tanaka explained, pointing to the continuous emission patterns. They're always broadcasting, always visible. It's as if the concept of stealth never occurred to them. Chen pondered this. Because they've never needed it. They've always been the dominant force. Exactly, sir. And that gives us an advantage they don't expect. While they can track our powered systems easily enough, we can approach undetected if we go dark. Chen finished the thought. Prepare protocols for silent running on our smaller vessels. The Thunderchild will keep their attention while we position our assets. The clock was ticking on humanity's deadline, but with each passing hour, Earth's forces uncovered new ways to challenge the supposedly invincible Conclave. Commander Hiroshi Tanaka moved through the dimly lit engineering bay of Corvette ESS Phantom, one of 3 stealth vessels being prepared for the most important mission in human history. The room hummed with tension as engineers worked in near silence, communicating through hand signals and text messages to minimize electronic emissions. Thermal dampening systems operating at 98% efficiency, a technician reported in a whisper, though sound couldn't travel through space. Old habits from submarine service died hard. Tanaka nodded, checking the readouts on his handheld display. Increase coolant flow to the port manifolds. I want 100% or better. The corvettes represented humanity's finest achievement in stealth technology, vessels designed to be virtually invisible against the backdrop of space. No active radar, minimal heat signature, and hull materials that absorbed rather than reflected energy. They were hunters in the darkness. Final modifications to the railgun projectiles are complete, Major Okoi reported as she entered the bay. She handed Tanaka a cylindrical object about the size of her forearm, a tungsten penetrator with a carbon ceramic heat shield. Standard design? Tanaka asked, weighing the object in his hand. With improvements, Okoi said. We've adjusted the density gradient based on what we know about their shield harmonics. The tip will create a momentary resonance disruption on impact, just enough to allow the main mass through. Tanaka whistled low. From submarine warfare to space combat, it's still about finding the frequency window. On the bridge of the UES Thunderchild, Captain Chen reviewed the mission parameters with his strike team commanders via secure channel. The main view screen displayed the positions of all vessels, human and alien. The Kazaran remain in standard formation. Chen noted. Their attention is focused on our diplomatic shuttle heading toward their command ship and on the Thunderchild. They're monitoring our power signatures constantly. Lieutenant Commander Reeves, commanding the ESS Phantom, appeared on a secondary screen. My team is ready, Captain. Silent approach via Jupiter's shadow, using minimal reaction control thrusters only. The ESS Whisper will approach from the lunar blind spot, added Commander Santiago. We've synchronized our chronometers for simultaneous strike. And the ESS Spectre will use the debris field from their weapons demonstration for cover, confirmed Commander Kwan. They're so busy watching for energy signatures that they haven't even bothered to track the rock fragments from the moon they destroyed. Chen nodded approval. Remember, this is not about destroying their fleet. It's about demonstrating capability and forcing them to reconsider their assumptions about us. 3 ships, 3 targets, then immediate withdrawal using pre-calculated trajectories. Back on Earth, Dr. Elena Rice worked with a team of linguists and synopsychologists, studying every nuance of the Kazaran communications. Their language structure reveals a fascinating cultural blind spot, she explained to Admiral Patel over secure link. They have no words that directly translate to ambush or stealth attack. Their military terminology assumes direct confrontation between known forces. A species that evolved without predators, Patel suggested. Or one that eliminated all competitors so long ago they've forgotten what it means to be hunted, Rice replied. Either way, it works to our advantage. They simply don't expect to be surprised. As the human diplomatic shuttle approached the Kazaran flagship with deliberate slowness, drawing all alien attention and scanning systems, the 3 corvettes silently moved into position. Their reactor cores were powered down to minimal life support levels, their propulsion systems dormant. Using only momentum and occasional bursts from cold gas thrusters, they glided through space like sharks through dark water. Major Okoi's voice came through Chen's personal communicator. Railgun projectiles loaded. Firing solutions computed. We're ready to teach them about humanity's oldest military strategy, the ambush. The diplomatic shuttle docked with the Kazaran flagship, a crystalline structure that dwarfed even the Thunderchild. Ambassador Weilin stepped through the airlock flanked by her delegation, faces deliberately neutral despite the alien grandeur surrounding them. Grand Overseer Xor Fol greeted them with a gesture that resembled a bow, but carried the unmistakable air of condescension. Welcome aboard the Glory of Ascension. I trust you bring your species acceptance of our generous terms. We come to propose a counteroffer, Ambassador Wei replied. Earth seeks mutual recognition and fair trade relations. Hordeful's skin shifted to a deep purple, signaling what human analysts had identified as amusement or possibly contempt. You misunderstand your position. The Conclave does not negotiate with developing worlds. As the ambassador engaged in what both sides recognized as delaying tactics, Captain Chen activated the ship-wide communication system aboard the Thunderchild. All stations, initiate Operation Thunderclap. The massive human warship suddenly powered up all systems simultaneously. Weapons, shields, engines, and active sensors. Alarms triggered across the Khazaran fleet as the sudden energy spike registered on their monitoring systems. Human vessel powering weapons, a Khazaran officer reported, multifaceted eyes widening. They're preparing to attack. Thorful dismissed the concern with a flick of elongated fingers. A meaningless gesture. Their primitive weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Aboard the ESS Phantom, Lieutenant Commander Reeves received the signal. Execute primary mission, she ordered calmly. The 3 corvettes, positioned strategically around the alien fleet, activated their weapon systems. Each vessel targeted a different Khazaran support ship, specifically the ones with the most sensitive communication and sensor arrays. Magnetic accelerator charge, Phantom's weapons officer reported. Target locked. Fire, Reeves commanded. Across the void, 3 silent commands triggered 3 identical responses. Electromagnetic forces propelled the specially designed tungsten rods to near-relativistic speeds. The projectiles crossed the space between vessels in seconds, carrying kinetic energy equivalent to small nuclear weapons. The first impact struck the Khazaran vessel Eternal Vigilance. The modified penetrator created the resonance disruption exactly as Major Okoye had designed, momentarily creating a window in the energy shield. The main mass tore through the alien hull, converting kinetic energy to heat and devastation as it passed through the ship from bow to stern. The scene repeated with the other 2 targets. No explosions marked the attacks. Just sudden, catastrophic hull breaches as the projectiles passed through the vessels like bullets through paper. In the Khazaran flagship's command center, alarms blared as status reports flooded in. Adlor. Thal's skin paled to an ashen gray, the universal sign of shock across the Conclave species. Impossible, the Grand Overseer whispered, watching as 3 support ships simultaneously lost power and began venting atmosphere. They used no energy weapons. How did they penetrate our shields? Ambassador Wei allowed herself a small smile. It seems we have more to discuss than you anticipated, Overseer. Captain Chen watched from the Thunderchild as the corvettes executed their pre-planned escape trajectories, powering down to stealth mode once more. The demonstration had been flawlessly executed, precise, limited, and devastatingly effective. Message from Admiral Patel, Lieutenant Park reported. The Security Council is prepared to open formal negotiations. Chen nodded. Inform the Admiral that the demonstration has been completed successfully. The Khazaran have received our response to their ultimatum. On the main view screen, the alien fleet's formation had dissolved into confusion. Ships moved to protect their flagship and retrieve crew from the damaged vessels. The perfect geometric pattern, a display of their technological superiority, had been shattered along with their confidence. Your orders, sir, asked his executive officer. Maintain battle readiness, Chen replied, but take no further action unless provoked. We've made our point. Now we wait for their response. The Khazaran Council convened an emergency session aboard their flagship, the crystalline chamber reflecting the agitated colors shifting across their skin. Grand Overseer Xor Thol faced the assembled representatives of the 7 conclave species, each watching with expressions ranging from concern to outright alarm. 3 vessels disabled by primitive projectile weapons, stated Council Elder Vexmore, the oldest among them. His skin had dulled to a matte gray, indicating deep distress. Explain how this happened, Overseer. Thorthol's posture stiffened. The humans employed tactics outside our experience. They created energy signatures with their main vessel while attacking with smaller craft that operated with minimal power emissions. They hid in darkness, another counselor observed, like predators. Our reinforcements arrive within 6 standard hours. Thorful reported. The human demonstration, while concerning, changes nothing. Their primitive kinetic weapons succeeded only because we were unprepared. We will adjust our shield harmonics accordingly. Aboard the Thunderchild, Captain Chen received the updated intelligence report from Major Okoi. The Kezaran are moving their remaining support ships into a defensive formation around their flagship, she explained, pointing to the tactical display. And look here, they're modifying their shield configurations. They're adapting to counter our railgun attacks. Chen studied the patterns. As expected, we've shown our hand, but gained valuable information. Sir, long-range sensors detect a large energy signature approaching from the direction of Alpha Centauri, Lieutenant Park reported. Consistent with Kezaran propulsion systems, but significantly larger than anything in their current fleet. Reinforcements, Chen nodded. Also expected. Time to execute Phase 2. In Earth orbit, Admiral Patel addressed the combined fleet commanders via secure holographic conference. The faces of 24 captains floated before her, awaiting instructions. The Kezaran believe they understand us now, she began. They think we're simply less advanced versions of themselves, that we fight as they do, just with inferior technology. Captain Chen's demonstration has challenged that assumption, but they still expect a conventional response to their reinforcements. What exactly are we planning, Admiral? Asked the commander of the European Space Force contingent. Asymmetric warfare on an unprecedented scale, Paddle replied. Humanity spent centuries fighting itself. We've perfected the art of facing superior forces and finding their weaknesses. Scientists and engineers across Earth worked around the clock, modifying existing technologies based on the data gathered from the initial engagement. In laboratories and manufacturing facilities, the fruits of humanity's long history of warfare, refined through centuries of conflict, were being repurposed for space combat. Captain Chen broadcast a message to the Kezaran fleet on an open channel, his voice calm and measured. This is Captain Marcus Chen of the United Earth Defense Fleet. Your demonstration against our lunar installation was intended to show your technological superiority. Our response demonstrated something you seem to have forgotten, or perhaps never learned. He paused, allowing the translation algorithms to work. Humans evolved as persistence predators. We didn't always have the strongest jaws or the sharpest claws, but we could track prey for days without rest. We learned to adapt, to use the environment to our advantage, to create tools that extended our natural abilities. These traits served us well when we fought each other, and they will serve us well now. In the silence that followed, sensor officers on both sides detected dozens of small objects being launched from Earth, simple satellites moving into precise orbital positions. What are those? Demanded Full, watching the deployment pattern take shape around his fleet. His science officer analyzed the readings. Primitive communication devices. They appear to be a net. Sorful realized with sudden clarity. They're creating a net around us. The trap was being set, and the Kezaran were only beginning to understand what it meant to face an enemy that had spent its entire evolutionary history learning how to overcome superior opponents. The massive Kezaran battleship emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, its crystalline structure dwarfing even their command vessel. Designated inevitable dominance in human intelligence reports, it carried the Conclave's most powerful weapon, a cascading electromagnetic pulse generator capable of neutralizing all electronic systems within its range. Transmission from the Kezaran reinforcement vessel, Lieutenant Park announced on the Thunderchild's bridge. Text only, broadcasting on all frequencies. Captain Chen nodded. On screen. The message was brief. Witness the consequences of defiance. Before Chen could respond, a wave of energy erupted from the alien battleship, expanding outward at near light speed. As it washed over the human fleet, systems began failing across all vessels. Lights flickered and died, engines shut down, and weapons systems went offline. EMP attack, Commander Tanaka reported as emergency lighting bathed the bridge in red, more sophisticated than anything in our defensive simulations. Around them, smaller human vessels began drifting, completely disabled by the alien weapon. The Thunderchild itself shuddered as primary systems failed one after another. "Status report," Chen demanded, his voice steadied despite the chaos. "Main power offline. Quantum core in emergency shutdown," Tanaka replied. "Shield generators non-responsive. Weapons systems disabled. Communications down except for hardline internal systems." The alien fleet began moving forward, confident in their total victory. On their command screens, human vessels appeared as dead metal drifting in space. Chen tapped a sequence on his command chair panel, not a digital interface, but a physical switch hidden beneath a protective cover. Throughout the massive vessel, mechanical systems engaged with audible clicks and whirs. "Initiate Protocol Lazarus," he ordered. Deep within the Thunderchild, engineering crews sprang into action. Unlike the alien vessels that relied entirely on automated systems, the human flagship had been designed with redundancy in mind, including completely analog backup systems. Engineers manually aligned power conduits. Navigation officers calculated trajectories using physical star charts and mechanical calculators. Weapons specialists loaded railgun ammunition by hand through backup loading mechanisms. In the main gunnery station, Major Okoi supervised as her team cranked massive flywheels that would generate the kinetic energy needed to launch projectiles without electrical systems. "Just like the old days of naval warfare," she remarked to her second-in-command as they worked. Before computers, before electronics, just human muscle and mechanical ingenuity. On the Kezeran command ship, Grand Overseer Xor Thul watched with satisfaction as the human vessels drifted powerless. "Begin recovery operations for study specimens," he ordered. Their technology, while primitive, may contain elements worth analyzing. His satisfaction turned to confusion as sensors detected movement from the human flagship. "Impossible," he muttered. "No system could function after that pulse." "The vessel is rotating," Overseer reported his tactical officer with increasing alarm. "They're aligning their main weapons." Without electronic targeting systems, Captain Chen relied on the skills of his gunnery crew. Using manual telescopic sights and mechanical firing solutions, they aligned the main railgun battery toward the approaching alien vessels. "Target acquired," reported the gunnery officer through a voice tube that connected directly to the bridge. Technology unchanged since submarine warfare centuries earlier. "Fire," Chen ordered. The Thunderchild shuddered as kinetic projectiles, launched from its main battery, propelled not by electromagnetic forces, but by the mechanical energy stored in massive flywheels powered by human muscle and determination. Xor Thul watched in disbelief as the supposedly disabled human vessel continued fighting. For the first time in his long military career, the Grand Overseer felt something alien to his species' psychology: doubt. "How?" he demanded of his science officer. "How are they still functioning?" The science officer's skin paled with realization. "They're using no electronics at all, Overseer. They've reverted to purely mechanical systems." The human warship, proudly continuing to fight when any conclave vessel would have been rendered useless, demonstrated a truth the aliens were only beginning to understand. Humanity's greatest technology wasn't in their advanced weapons, but in their ability to adapt and overcome. Grand Overseer Xor Thul requested an emergency communication channel with Admiral Patel. The temporary ceasefire had been hastily arranged after the Thunderchild's unexpected resilience demonstrated that the Kezeran's decisive weapon had failed to secure victory. "Your vessel's ability to function after our suppression field is unexpected," Xor Thul admitted, his skin tone shifting to a shade that human synopsychologists had identified as indicating reluctant respect. Admiral Patel maintained a neutral expression. We've had centuries of practice preparing for worst-case scenarios, Overseer. It's a habit we developed early in our history. As the diplomatic exchange continued, Captain Chen oversaw the implementation of Earth's next strategic phase. The satellite network deployed earlier had been specifically designed to survive the electromagnetic attack, using shielded components and minimal electronics. Begin Operation Swarm, Chen ordered through the ship's mechanical communication system. Around the world, launch facilities activated pre-programmed sequences, hundreds of small autonomous vessels, little more than engines, basic sensors, and simple guidance systems, deployed into low Earth orbit. Unlike conventional military spacecraft, these units had been designed using principles derived from insect colonies. Dr. Elena Reyes monitored the deployment from Earth Defense Headquarters. The drone swarm is achieving optimal formation, she reported to Admiral Patel. Each unit contains minimal electronic components hardened against electromagnetic interference. They're small enough that the Kazaran sensors barely register them as threats. In lunar orbit, Commander Santiago supervised the final preparations of the autonomous fleet from a hardened bunker. Individual units have limited capabilities, she explained to her staff, but they're not designed to function independently. The magic happens when they operate together. The human swarm approached the Kazaran fleet using a dispersed formation that mimicked natural space debris. Each tiny vessel followed simple programmed rules: maintain distance from fellow units, respond to specific signals from neighbors, and execute predefined actions when within range of targets. On the Kazaran flagship, tactical officers noted the approaching objects with growing concern. Overseer, we're detecting hundreds of small objects approaching our position, reported the sensor chief. Debris from their disabled ships. Exor, Thol inquired. No, sir. They're powered and moving with purpose, but they're too small to be conventional vessels. Their movement patterns are unusual. The alien weapons systems, calibrated for capital ships and conventional threats, struggle to target the tiny, erratically moving drones. When their defensive lasers did connect with a unit, the swarm immediately adapted, adjusting formation to minimize further losses. Captain Chen watched from the Thunderchild as the swarm enveloped the alien vessels. Status update from Operation Swarm, he asked. Phase 1 complete, sir, replied his tactical officer. The drones are attaching to external sensor arrays and communication nodes as planned. Rather than attacking with conventional weapons, the human swarm targeted the Kazaran's ability to coordinate their defense. Small charges detonated against communication relays. Electronic warfare modules attached to sensor arrays, broadcasting interference patterns specifically tuned to the frequencies used by the alien fleet. Aboard the inevitable Dominance, chaos erupted as ship-to-ship communications failed. Targeting systems received conflicting data from compromised sensors. The perfect coordination that made the Conclave fleet so formidable began to collapse. What is happening? Cuxor, Vol demanded as tactical displays showed his carefully arranged formation dissolving into confusion. His science officer's skin had paled to almost white. They're not trying to destroy our ships. They're blinding us, isolating us from each other. It's like fighting against a disease rather than an enemy fleet. In Earth's command center, Admiral Patel observed the effectiveness of humanity's asymmetric response. The International Military Game Theory Division predicted this correctly, she noted. The Kazaran never developed countermeasures for swarming attacks because their military doctrine evolved around capital ship warfare. The alien fleet, masters of overwhelming force, found themselves helpless against an enemy that refused to fight according to the established rules of engagement. The neutral station orbited at the midpoint between Earth and lunar space, a hastily constructed diplomatic platform where both species could meet on equal terms. Captain Chen stood beside Admiral Patel and Ambassador Wei, facing Grand Overseer Sorful and the Kazaran delegation across the circular table. Your request for formal negotiations is granted, Exorful stated, his skin now a steady blue that indicated professional composure. though human synopsychologists noted subtle patterns suggesting lingering discomfort. The conclave acknowledges that our initial assessment of Earth's capabilities requires reconsideration. Admiral Patel nodded. We appreciate your willingness to engage in dialogue, Overseer. Earth has no desire for prolonged conflict. The meeting lasted for hours as both sides discussed terms. The humans presented detailed analyses of Kazarian technology, demonstrating their understanding of alien systems that had initially seemed incomprehensible. The aliens in turn revealed the true extent of their galactic influence, a federation spanning hundreds of worlds across multiple star systems. Your species presents us with a unique situation. Shorthal admitted, your technology is indeed less advanced than ours in many areas, yet your tactical innovations and adaptive capabilities exceed anything we've encountered. Captain Chen studied the alien carefully. Because you evolved differently than we did, Overseer. From what we've learned, the conclave species developed in environments with few predators and abundant resources. While humans, Ambassador Wei continued, evolve as persistent predators on a challenging world with numerous competing species. Our history is filled with conflicts that forced us to innovate or perish. As the formal discussions continued, Commander Tanaka and his Kazarian counterpart, Chief Engineer Zorovin, found themselves engaged in a surprisingly collegial exchange. The alien engineer had requested to inspect the Thunderchild's backup systems that had functioned through the electromagnetic attack. Remarkable redundancy, Zorovin observed, examining the mechanical linkages that connected the bridge to the engine room. Your species builds assuming failure. Tanaka smiled. We call it Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong at the worst possible moment. So we prepare accordingly. We designed assuming perfection, the alien admitted, a cultural blind spot we must address. In a separate chamber, Major Okoi demonstrated the principles behind the swarm drones to a group of fascinated Kazarian military observers. The individual units are almost primitive, she explained. But together, they form a complex adaptive system that can respond to threats without centralized control. The senior Kazarian officer's skin rippled with colors indicating intellectual excitement. Like your planet's insect colonies, we studied them as biological curiosities, never considering their applicability to warfare. As the discussions progressed toward their conclusion, Admiral Patel presented the final human proposal, not submission or even alliance, but partnership. The conclave has mastered energy manipulation, faster than light travel, and materials science beyond our current capabilities, she acknowledged. Earth offers innovation, adaptive strategy, and perspective from a species that evolved solving problems under constant pressure. Grand Overseer Sorthol considered the proposal with the Conclave Council. After a brief deliberation, he extended a four-fingered hand toward Admiral Patel. The Kazarian Conclave accepts Earth as a full partner species, he announced, his skin shifting to a bright gold that indicated ceremonial significance. Your warships have earned our respect, but your minds have earned our alliance. 6 months later, Captain Chen stood on the observation deck of a new vessel, the Cooperative Venture, the first ship built with combined human and Kazarian technology. Its crew included members of both species, each contributing their unique strengths to the joint mission. As the ship prepared for its maiden voyage, Chen reflected on the unexpected outcome of humanity's first contact. They had prepared for war, but achieved something far greater, a partnership that would reshape the galaxy. Human warships had indeed left the aliens speechless, not through destruction, but through innovation that bridged the gap between vastly different evolutionary paths. The stars awaited, and humanity would face them not alone, but alongside allies who had once been adversaries, a testament to the most human quality of all, the ability to turn confrontation into cooperation.